Yes, that's a great question. How do you manage a situation where your reputation is being harmed with essentially lies and innuendos? And in fact, it may even be supported by popular media, who doesn't today have the resilience to actually do journalism. How do you fight that? So I've found there's only one way to fight that, and that is through doing the work of what good journalists are supposed to do, which is putting the facts down, giving the actual primary sources of those facts, and documenting that and making it fully transparent, number one. Number two, being transparent enough to invite your opposition openly to public forums. Number two, so what you're saying is, look, here are the facts, and I'm also inviting you to discuss the facts with me. Those two things send a very clear message that you're open to the truth and you want to live and die by the truth. And nothing can harm that approach in the long run. Now, the reality is, the way I view justice is truth occurring in a shortened period of time. Justice doesn't mean that you have the truth and it takes 300 years in the case of Galileo to get the truth out. That's not justice. So that's why I think social media and the internet, it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, I'll give you an example. In my case, when I fought the Indian government and exposed the issues about the stilting of a lot of the innovators within the CSIR system, when I exposed that, the Indian government actually hired bloggers and started blogging against me, saying all sorts of lies and inaccuracies. What we did was we went public. We said, let's have an open forum. No one ever came to the open forum, and that itself sent out a message, the fact that we were willing to do an open forum. In the case of the invention of email, we built a site called inventorofemail.com. We actually went to the primary sources. Volunteers helped us. They actually spent days and nights, weeks in the MIT libraries, went through microfiches, documented everything. All the references are there for that. Plus we said, let's have an open discussion. And both those cases strengthen it. Now what's fascinating is, in the traditional media, once certain journalists who don't take the time to do the work put their news out, and then the facts come out, they're actually in an embarrassing situation where very few of them will retract their false statements. So that's the way the world is today, and the only thing you have to be is consistent with your messaging, reach as many people as you can, be as transparent as possible, and I believe ultimately call for open public forums where people can come and discuss this openly, and you can share the facts and clear up the facts. I think for youngsters watching this video, the main advice I'd give is to be very practical in your studies. So for example, if you're studying engineering or science, number one is learn fundamentals. Most of the stuff I learned came actually out of high school, very little out of MIT. And those are basic fundamentals, be it mathematics, chemistry, and physics. Because once you learn the fundamentals, you can derive all the other types of equations in the case of science or engineering, or you can essentially solve any problem, but you have to learn your fundamentals, number one. Number two is what I call learning a systems approach to life and to solving problems. As I mentioned to you, email is not the simple exchange of text messages. Email was a system. And systems are essentially the interlocking of multiple pieces. So if you learn a systems approach, then you have a much greater appreciation for how reality works versus just learning single dimensional pieces of knowledge. Because today what's happened with the world is individual pieces of knowledge can be replicated anywhere, but if you want to make yourself competitive, you have to learn how to bring pieces together. And that's what makes you much more viable in a very, very competitive marketplace. So what does a systems approach mean? A systems approach means you learn how to bring different aspects, components together. And the best way to do that is when you're in your studies to actually go start a company, for example, or to go do something entrepreneurial, or to actually work somewhere. Because when you have to work in these environments, then you can actually see why your education is important. In fact, I actually encourage people to take 2 years off before they go to college, because you won't even appreciate what you're learning if you really want to be a very, very successful person. And that's what I mean a systems approach, where you learn how to bring different pieces together to either create things or bring value to the marketplace.